All right. Well, it appears
Okay,
that
we're
we
live.
are we? Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody. This is Anton Scholl from Living in the Limelight podcast. We are going live on YouTube, and we have a very special guest today from Zim's Guitars in Mesa, Mr. Dane Zimmerman. Thank you for joining us today.
Anton, thank you so much for having me. How you doing?
Very well. Very well. The weather out here, I got to tell you, people are dealing with this weather all over the United States. We are seeing some very bad weather everywhere. But even here, you know, when people talk about Arizona, you know, everybody thinks that we're living in sunshine and, you know, heat all the time. But I got to tell you, man, it's been cold out here. And I'm from Chicago.
Well, it's sunshiny today, but cold.
Yes. Yeah. Although I do feel sorry for my friends in Chicago right now who are dealing with that blizzard and all the things that they are dealing with.
Well, it's their own damn fault for still living there.
Still living there, exactly. And speaking of that, I believe you're a Midwesterner, aren't you?
Yeah, but I've been out here in Phoenix since like 1980. So, but no, I was born in Ohio, and yeah.
Oh, okay.
Grew up in Ohio.
Great. Okay, yeah, the weather out there. Oof. And
yeah,
what brought you out to Phoenix?
My parents.
Oh,
yeah, I was just a kid. Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know, it's funny when people
they wanted to get out of the horrible weather, and they actually sometimes to get out of the weather, you actually have to pack a suitcase and throw it in your car and drive out of the weather.
Yeah. Oh, I get that.
Do that.
Yeah, I think I had enough. I had enough of the snow. I think one day it took me 4.5 hours to get to work. One day, we weren't allowed to stay home. That was back in the day when you had to show up for work every single day, no matter what. Even sick, you were sick, you had to go to work. If you could be sick at work, you could be sick at home. You know, sick at home, sick at work. So you may as well go. And I remember
on the flip side of that, thankfully, in the summer, it gets to be so hot that the average person from Chicago is like, what the hell am I doing here? And they go back to Chicago where it's beautiful. So ideally, you want to have two homes.
Right.
You know, you have to just follow the warm weather around.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's good because all of the people around me where I live, all of the people around me are essentially snowbirds. So I have no neighbors for a good 6-7 months out of the year. And, you know, then they show up and it's great to see them. And, you know, we have a great time when they're here, but, you know, nice to kind of be in an area where there's really nobody else around, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. So cool. Anyway, again, I appreciate you joining. I want to talk about your store. So Zim's Guitars in Mesa.
Hold on real quick. Do you see a little eyeball thing that shows how many eyeballs are watching?
Yeah. No, we got nothing yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might want to wait and see if we get some eyeballs on us.
Mm-hmm. Well, so it'll record. It's recording anyway, right? I mean, this will be put up there. Yeah. But doesn't matter. So either way, it'll still be recorded. I didn't expect to have really anybody on the first time we were going to do this anyhow.
Right.
You know, so we'll just shoot it up on YouTube, and then, you know, as the channel grows, you know, it'll be a lot more, but I didn't expect anyone to be on now.
Huh.
And, you know, we're 4 minutes into it. You know, who knows? I'm sure people are getting their notifications. But, you know, either way, we will push on and, you know, we'll see what happens. And then, you know, we'll cut it short when we need to cut it. And that's it. But may as well just have some fun and talk about you and talk about your music and talk about the store. So really interested in the store itself because, you know, I think every musician's dream is to open up a music store, and you've fulfilled that dream. So, you know, I think that's great.
Honestly, it was really easy to pull it off too. I don't understand why guys don't try it. I have no competition in this town. There's Brenly's that's a few miles up the street. Of course, there's Milano's Music that has been there since the 1950s, and that's on Main Street in Mesa. And then you have the 5 Guitar Center locations that are in the Phoenix metro area. And then there's Bizarre Guitar down in Central Phoenix that has been down there for years and years. But I mean, I'm missing a few other. There's a Sam Ash way out on the west side of Phoenix. But over here where I'm at, there's not really any competition for what I'm doing. And that is a used buy, sell, and trade guitar shop. And I have probably the largest selection of used pedals in the Phoenix area. And that includes all 5 Guitar Center locations. And I probably have 450 guitars hanging on the wall that are all ready to be sold, restrung, shined up. And so again, it's I'm pretty sure that Zim's Guitars is the largest buy, sell, and trade guitar shop in the Phoenix metro area. If you and because the fact that it's all used guitars, and there's probably 450 of them inside the store right now that's ready to go. And if you went to any of the Guitar Center locations, usually there's maybe a dozen to maybe 20. I mean, you've been into Guitar Center. How many used guitars are hanging on the walls? A dozen to maybe 2 dozen?
There's not many, right. And because they want to sell the new ones. Because they're associated with Gibson and Fender.
Right. I get customers all the time that were in Milano's Music and they're trying to sell their Schecter or their Ibanez or their Epiphone. And the guys at, Milano's Music, they send those customers, instead of buying that used gear, because they're pushing to sell their new gear, they're sending all those customers to me. And so I'm like, that's cool. Bring them on over here.
Of course. There's so many musicians out there that are just starting out, or that, can't afford to buy the brand name, the big name guitars. And you're there to kind of fulfill that need for them so they can buy an inexpensive guitar, but a good guitar. Because like you said, you go through those guitars. You don't just grab a guitar from somebody who's selling a bad guitar and throw it up on your shelf. You polish it up, you restring it, you make sure that it's a working instrument. And then you're able to sell it to those musicians. So, I think that's great. That's great.
That's cool.
So what do you said you have like 450 guitars out there.
Probably. Yeah. I did an inventory about a year ago and we just sort of counted them and it was at that. And I might have more than that now. I have a lot of stuff in cases but just hanging on the walls and on stands. And hanging in the back room. I have a nice little BC Rich collection of stuff hanging in the back room. I've got a nice selection of used Jackson guitars. I've got a half a dozen or so nice Charvel guitars. I probably have, 20 nice Epiphone Les Pauls and SGs. And I'm probably have a dozen or so made in Mexico Stratocasters. And there's a couple of Gibsons in here. I don't get too much Gibson stuff because guys don't usually trade that stuff in. Right. And it kind of sells pretty quick when I do get Gibson. But right now I have a 2014 SG Future, which is the Gibson SG that had the Robotuners on there from 2014. I've got one of those, and I've got a Les Paul Studio, and so just used stuff.
The Robotuners. Let me. I'm going to tell you a quick story about the Robotuners. Okay, so you said, I believe that one. I think that one did. It came out in 2014,
13 and 14. I think.
Yeah. So well before that, probably 20 years or so before it came out, I went to a show where I was taking pictures, and we met Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and we met with them before the show. So we saw the rehearsal, and after the rehearsal, Graham Nash came up to me. I was talking to him a little bit, and he said, "Hey, are you a musician?" I said, "Yes, I am. I'm a bass player and singer." And he said, "Well, let me show you something." and he pulls out this Gibson guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I have a picture, but I don't have it with me. But he pulls out this Gibson guitar that has all of these buttons on the front. And he said, I had Gibson make this for me. It's got all these buttons. If I want to tune my guitar to C, watch what happens. And he presses the button and all the tuners moved.
Right.
And I was like, wow, do you think they'll ever come out with that? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't know how it would sell, but I got to tell you, this is my favorite guitar. I can tune it to any tuning I want to with a click of a button. I don't have to change guitars, and it works great. So fast forward some 20 years, they finally released it, and that was it was at least 20 years afterwards. So that guitar does that. It does self-tuning to all different types of tunings. Is that the same process?
Yeah. But there is it was a cool thing, but they got it didn't catch on with the public. The public absolutely hated the idea. After you get past the thing of hitting the button and they all turn around and it puts you in a different tuning and all that, then you've got the thing about Gibson is you the purist that is a Gibson player doesn't want anything to do with anything new. Gibson can't create new products because there's too many guys that love Gibson the way they already are and do not ever change anything about a Gibson. And so they can't sell when they try to innovate. They don't sell all those items. And there's it's pretty horrible story about what happened to the company that innovated those Gibson tuners, the robo tuners. So it was probably 2012 or 2011 at the NAMM show. This little company was in the basement and they were working on these robo tuners. And the big shots at Gibson's, Paul, you can help me if fucking this story all up. But the big shots at Gibson were walking around the NAMM show and they saw this little company down in the basement that had these robo tuners. And after a few hours of looking at these tuners and stuff, the guys at Gibson were like, dude, we want to put these robo tuners on every guitar that we make from now on forever. So the small little company that were building these robo tuners were like, oh my God. And they mortgaged away their houses. They put as much money as they could together so that they could manufacture enough of these robo tuners for Gibson. Okay. Gibson used those tuners for 2 years, never paid this company a dime.
Oh,
put that poor little company out of business. And then when Gibson went through all their bankruptcy stuff, never paid that company a dime. And that's kind of one of those things about Gibson, which is I don't know if they're just really not a bunch of nice guys over there. That's how I'm gonna leave that. Paul, you
didn't know that. Wow.
Hold on, I got Paul. Paul's gonna talk about this subject.
So essentially, what happened during the end of the Henry Juskowitz era of Gibson, they dipped their well into too many other endeavors, amplifier companies, samplers, things like that. They spread themselves financially too thin, got themselves in a mess. And the tuner thing, the robo tuner thing, was just a bad idea. The Les Paul, and let's face it, Leo and Les got it right in 1952, and 1948 and 52 accordingly. The Les Paul, it's one of the few examples of what would be considered substandard American engineering that still is an icon, that and the Harley Davidson. Because clearly Asian manufacturing and other companies have built a better beast, but you're not buying a Les Paul for technology. You're buying a Les Paul for nostalgia. You're buying it for the quote unquote mojo that comes with it. And most of the time you're paying for the name, the premium of the name. Well, customer expectation has to be, if I buy a Gibson Les Paul, I don't want it chambered. I don't want coil taps. I don't want this. Gibson is a big enough company where they could have done that to their Explorer line or another line that isn't a boutique marquee brand. And so Henry mismanaged the company to the point where now Cesar and everyone has had, they've had that management takeover in 2019. Quality control has improved drastically since that change. But Henry, he's the guy who saved the company and also the guy that almost tanked the company. They were a mess in the early 80s when Henry and his investors got together and took over, and obviously the Norland debacle and how they get the guitar quality. And at the time, the rise of the Super Strat. And then all of a sudden, in the mid 80s, Chris Derrig and Max Baronet saved the Les Paul. And
Slash.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Gibson decides, okay, well, we're going to do this. Well, now it's become one of the most popular guitars on the planet again, even though from 58 through 60 during those golden years, it didn't sell very well. That's why they changed it. That's why the SG came out. So that Gibson has been historically sort of the wave of mismanagement. And about every 10 or 15 years, for whatever happens, the pendulum swings back and forth. And of course, you've got the cult of the internet now who can't wait to talk about which wood era was the good wood era, which pickups are this or that. I guarantee you, if you had a brand new 1959 Les Paul, not new, but obviously one that you could obtain, and an Epiphone Les Paul standard, and recorded both of them onto a piece of tape or whatever digital that you want to use, I guarantee you most people couldn't tell you the difference. Couldn't tell you the difference sound-wise. Technology and guitar manufacturing has improved to the point now where Gibson is now a niche company. It really is. As big as they are, they're a niche company. You know what you're getting.
They're behind the times in a certain degree. Yeah. They're behind the times. Yeah,
I mean, you're going to get, you can get just as good a guitar from one of the South Korean manufacturing plants.
Right.
Now, is it a Gibson? No. I mean, there's a difference between driving a Rolls Royce and driving a Lincoln Continental. They're both luxury vehicles, but one of them just has a different feel. And the difference for Gibson is the feel of the wood. A well-made Gibson custom versus an Epiphone, they're going to get the same sound, essentially. You can EQ your way into that sound. But as far as a tool goes, the difference between grabbing a Stanley hammer and a budget hammer that you bought at your local hardware store. There's just a difference in craftsmanship. And that's what you're paying now. And of course, Gibson screwed over some of the vendors that tried to help them with the RoboTuner thing, which was just a bad idea. Not on that guitar.
Screwed them over.
Yeah, not on that guitar.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Neanderthal, KSL, Neanderthal, KSLX.
All right.
Afternoon, guys.
Thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
Sorry,
no, you want to take over for me? You're fine. Okay, here we go. So this is the 2013 Gibson Future. It's an SG. It's a pretty guitar. It's thin. It's lightweight. But here's the killer in the back right here.
There it is.
It's the infamous RoboTuners.
Right.
Guys would
now wait, how do you change? How do you change the tuning from where?
If your battery is good in it, you press this little button.
Oh, so you have to go back there. Okay.
Yeah, you press a button on it. And you got to keep the batteries charged too.
Oh, sure.
But you could press that button. But there's a YouTuber called Philip McKnight. And Phil used to buy these stores at his, he used to buy these guitars over at his store all the time. 2013, every 2014, guys would buy these Gibsons with these RoboTuners on there. And they would just hate this guitar. And when you go to tune it, it's all, listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
Guys hated these things.
Right.
And so Phil McKnight would buy these guitars at his guitar shop, McKnight Guitar Company. He was down on Dobson and Chandler Boulevard. And he'd buy these things all the time, just rip this out, put Grover tuners on there, resell the guitar. You could get your money back. You can make it more of an authentic Gibson by putting Grover tuners on it and getting rid of the RoboTuners. It's really a nice thing. But now having the RoboTuners on there is one of those weird things that might appeal to one of the old Gibson purists. Oh my God, I don't believe you got one with those things on there still. Everybody ripped these things out. You know,
well, that would make it more rare. You know, I would think that would make it more collectible at this point, is that people who actually saved them, you know.
Yeah,
so
it's been 10 years now.
Yeah. So now what does something like that run at your store right now?
$1,000
for that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you got some nice guitars there in the background, I see. What do you have back there? What do you have, Ibanez, or what do you have back there?
I've got all kinds of stuff. Is there something that you wanted to see specifically?
What is the one? Well, I see something right behind you. It's a what is the first one right behind you? What is that one?
Over here?
Yeah. Yeah, that one.
This is an Ibanez.
It is. Okay. I thought it was an Ibanez.
So this is an Ibanez premium gem. So it's not the 777 gem that's Japan. This is a Korean or an Indonesia. This is an Indonesia gem 77P. And this is their imported version of a gem. And so brand new, I think these things were $1,500. And so on the used market, they bring about $1,000. Still got the monkey grip. Cool guitar. You still got the Tree of Life inlays.
Yeah.
This is the Gem Premium out of Indonesia.
Yeah, that's a nice one. The heads on those guitars and that design up on top, that's like the Steve Vai. Used to be like the Steve Vai collection.
It is. It still is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those are nice. I do like those. Matter of fact, my bass that I play is from that era. I think it was 91. It was only made 1 year. It's a Sabre. It's an SP 900 Ibanez bass where the body is really thin. The neck is really thin. I haven't been able to find another bass like that at all. But nobody has them anymore. I don't think anybody ever wanted to sell theirs once they got it, but it was only made for 1 year. So, and I love the headstock on that one. So that's nice.
Now, yeah, they're cool guitars. It's all about Steve Vai on this thing. The whole monkey grip and everything.
Yeah.
It's all about Steve Vai on this one.
Now, let me ask you this. What don't you sell? What don't you get into at the store? Because, you know, if people who see this or they come out to see you, just want to make sure they're not, lugging a bunch of their equipment out that you're not going to take. But what do you not sell or what do you not take and trade in?
I definitely do not do anything with drums. The last thing that I want in my quiet little guitar shop is a drum set up so the high school kids come in here and start banging on drums. I don't do drums. Okay. And I don't do recording gear because I try to focus on the stuff that I know about, and that's guitars and pedals and amplifiers. And I think I know more about guitars than amps and pedals, but I know enough about that kind of stuff. But when it comes to recording gear and when it comes to PA systems are big and bulky, and all the old stuff that the guys would want to trade in are those old PV cabs and weird stuff like that. I can't do anything with that stuff. It's obsolete stuff. So I can't do PA gear.
Okay.
Don't do rack mount gear, although there's still some cool rack mount stuff floating around out in the world, but I try to stay away from rack mount stuff because I try to just focus on gear that are quick flips and hopefully don't sit around the store for years. And got a bunch of bass amps and PA gear and weird stuff like that, old mixing consoles and stuff. You can't sell that stuff. I remember going to that store down in Tucson, and they had that whole upstairs attic that had all those old. What's that? Was that Rainbow? It wasn't Rainbow. What's that other store down in Tucson?
I think it's Rainbow. Yeah, that's the one that has all the special runs that they get from certain funds.
No, there's an older store right in the downtown area.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah, and there's also and they didn't. You can't sell that kind of stuff. I have to have the stuff that's more modern and that you can sell. And then there's also if you I used to go down to Venice every once in a while whenever we were playing in LA or whatever, and there was a guitar shop called Time Warp Music or Time Warp Guitars or whatever it was called. And it was right on Venice Boulevard. And that place was packed with old gear, but it wasn't the old gear that guys wanted. It was all the old gear that nobody wanted. And
that's obsolete.
Now the last time I went down there, they're gone. They couldn't pay their rent. All these old, mixers and all these old rack mount units. And it was great walking through there. The place was like a museum, but they couldn't sell any of it. And you can't plug it into your studio. The plugins that come out of your computer are better than any of that old rack mount stuff. So I definitely, well, there's some still some, stuff still sells. There's some stuff that still sells. Right. But overall, I don't get into that kind of stuff. I just basically I like to stick to guitars.
Well, that's the one thing that's a constant, right? Your guitars, pedals.
Let me answer my phone. I'm going to mute my mic for a second.
No, go ahead. All right, so we'll be talking with Dane at Zim's Guitars in Mesa, and he's talking about all of his guitars that he has. So if you need some used gear, if you just want to buy an inexpensive guitar, if you're really trying to just get out there for the first time in playing music, he would be the place to go. So he is in Mesa. Look up Zim's Guitar in Mesa, and also Zim's Guitar here on YouTube. You'll be able to find his channel. He has quite a bit of subscribers and seems to be doing very well out there. So go by and say hi to Dane and check out his guitars. Like you said, he's got 450 used guitars up there that he actually goes into and polishes them up and gets them ready for you, restrings them. He really does what he can to make sure that the consumer, who he knows being a musician himself, he realizes what it takes and what people want to start playing guitar, that they do need a reliable instrument, maybe that's not very expensive. People can't start out on these guitars like a Gibson or a Fender and spend thousands of dollars on something, so you may as well get a guitar that you could kind of play around with, fiddle around with, and, save some money on that and get better at what you're doing, and then get the guitar that you feel. There's so many guitars out there, and I got to tell you, I don't care what people say about guitars, that, it's really a status thing. Don't listen to people when they say you have to have a Gibson, you have to have a Fender, you have to have an alembic bass, you have to have this type of bass. Don't do that. Go into something that you're going to feel comfortable with, that you can afford, and head out to Zim's Guitars and talk to Dane about it. He'll certainly talk to you. He, like I said, he's a musician himself. This guy's going to go out there and he's going to set you up with the right guitar, to get you going. So, really good. We got some watchers here, so that's good. So, we got
anybody in the comments? Guys, leave comments for us, please. Somebody
leave a comment in there.
Give us a comment.
So I think I was just telling them while you were gone about the different guitars and about status symbol and how everybody needs to look great on stage, or I see these tribute bands, by the way. I see these tribute bands, they have to have the guitar,
That's true. The other night I went and saw Unskinny Bob.
Poison tribute. Yeah. Okay. They got to have the guitars. Oh, we got a hello. All right.
Adam.
Yep. That's my son. There you go.
So just to let you know, if you click on that comment right there, it'll highlight, and so that we could read it.
Yeah, no, it's just a wave. Got a little wave, so that's good. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate that. There's the wave.
There it is.
So with these tribute bands, they have to have the right guitars. And I got to tell you, I was in a Rush tribute band, and not going to go out and spend $3,000 on a 4001 Rickenbacker, from the 70s. That's just not going to happen. And then of course you have the double neck, which you certainly don't want to get. But man, these guitars can run.
So you did the Geddy Lee. Were you the Geddy Lee of the band?
Yeah.
Wow. How cool.
So, but I couldn't play keyboards. So initially, I actually had a band. It was called Kashmir to Kings, where what I did, it was a Led Zeppelin and Rush tribute band.
Okay.
And I was the singer and bass player for that. And what we actually ended up doing was having background tracks made of the keyboards. So we would play those as a track. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would play the bass. But I tell you, yeah, playing a lot of the Geddy Lee stuff. The bass is a lot harder than the vocals for me, at least. I have a high voice, so I could do the vocals. But yeah, the bass was very difficult. But when I see like these Led Zeppelin tribute bands, also I see these people, that have to have the Gibson double neck. Can't do an Epiphone, right. Not an Epiphone. Right. You got to have that Gibson, and that Gibson double neck is a fortune.
That is true, but half the fun of a tribute band is to try to look the part. Because that's what the word tribute pretty much means. I was in a Cure tribute band 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'd put the black wig on and the guy liner and everything. But the fun of a tribute band is to try to look the part. And that's why the Kiss tribute bands are very popular, because everybody can dress up like Kiss.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit harder to have a tribute band of a band where it's just a bunch of dudes in blue jeans, like the Bryan Adams tribute band or the, Journey. There's a really good Voyager is a Journey tribute band. And they've got some Filipino guy singing and everything now, but you got to try to capture the look if you're a tribute band. And that again, that's why the Van Halen tribute bands of the world, they're all playing a Frankenstrat. They all got the Jack Daniels bass. You got to try to look the part, or you're just a bunch of guys playing Van Halen songs.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so you've been in the difference between covers and originals. I wanted to go over that with you because you've been in both. You've done a lot of covers, obviously playing somebody else's music in bars, doing these 4-hour shows that you have to play the full night with. And now you're doing the original music in Whiskey Dogs. What kind of a difference is that for you as far as the feel on stage doing one versus the other?
Well, one thing that I will say, when you go out there and you're playing your originals, it's fun. And when you're on stage playing cover tunes, I mean, it can still be fun, but then sometimes it feels like it's work.
Yeah.
And, and then there's also, if you're worried about making money, you have to play covers to make some money. Cause the average guy, if he walks out of a cover band and he's got $100 in his pocket, then it was a successful night playing cover tunes. So you're making your $10 an hour, $12 an hour playing cover tunes. And some guys gauge success on the fact that they've got $100 in their pocket after playing a night of cover tunes. When you're an original band, you have to find different things to gauge success. You have somebody in the audience has to say, "Hey man, I really liked that last song that you guys played." Or maybe you have a song where it has a very, very simple chorus and you can see people that have never heard your music before, maybe singing along a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you want for 6-in-a-line Fender tuners and a 10-inch speaker? You got a Fender one back there?
These are 20.
20? So you got a Fender 10-inch speaker and a Jensen 10-inch speaker back there? What do you want for one of them?
$40 a piece.
Okay.
All right. So, so you have to gauge your success when you do originals differently. And because, you can compile original, you can record them, you can put a whole album together. If you sell one to somebody, I can sell CDs down here at my shop. If I have my original band and we've actually got physical copies of our CD, You know,
Yep.
I can price them at 10 or 20 bucks a piece or 15 or whatever. And I can actually sell CDs to my normal customers that come in here. And then
Sure.
maybe a month or so later, the next time you see them, if they say, hey, dude, I really like the one song on there. And if they tell you the title of the song, you can be like, oh, yes, success.
Right.
You know? So there's
Oh, that
different
definitely feels
ways
good.
of,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
different
That
ways
definitely feels.
of trying to look at it. When you play a cover, when you're in a cover band and you got people on the dance floor or up at the front of the stage and they're kind of doing this kind of thing, then you're like, okay, hey, they like what we're doing. If when you have a CD out, you've always got that thought in the back of their head that somebody somewhere is driving around in their car and they got your CD playing it, right?
Yeah.
So you never know. And so you always have that thing of, man, you just never know who's listening to our CD right now. It could be in the hands of Bob Ezrin or somebody. It could be out there somewhere. And as a cover band, you don't really have that. It's in the moment. You got to, you know, the people, you never know who's in the audience, but most of the time, if you're playing a little bar in Phoenix, Arizona, you know, Bob Ezrin's not going to be there. Right.
Right. Well, okay. So speaking of that, then tell me about the Whiskey A Go-Go, because you playing at the iconic Whiskey A Go-Go, you know, bands would kill to play there. So being at the Whiskey, tell me about that place in general, because I've never been there myself. Tell me about the Whiskey. Tell me about the show.
It's an awesome place to play, and you don't have to kill to play there. You just have to pay to play there. You buy your time slot, and they hand you a bunch of tickets. Now, fortunately, though, to sell a ticket to go to the legendary Whiskey A Go-Go, if you actually are living in LA, honestly, it's probably not that hard to sell those tickets because guys love going there. Especially the thing about the Whiskey is it's still 1987 in there. And so over the holidays, you know, New Year's Eve, I'm talking about, they went from Great White to Faster Pussycat to Stephen Pearcy to LA Guns, like in 4 nights in a row. They have the whole week, you know.
Yeah.
And then they have a Van Halen tribute on Tuesday. So they're still love the 80s hair metal scene. It was so big for them that they haven't suddenly decided, or over the last 3 decades, they haven't decided, you know what, we're gonna be a modern rock club now, or we're gonna be a country club, you know, and play country music now, or we're gonna turn into a hip hop. The Roxy next door does that, right? So, so they're still in 1987, and so if you're a person of my age that is still stuck in 1987, like I am, and because I love that music, it's a great place to hang out. And
the energy in the audience is obviously.
Man, the audience treats you really, really good. There's not a better audience. In honestly, I've never seen a better audience. There's been a couple of times where I've played the casino down in Tucson, and there's been a couple of shows around town that have been really cool, and the audience seems like they really appreciate you. But there's something about the audience at the Whiskey A Go-Go where they really come off like they really appreciate you being there. And so that's a very rare thing to find.
Oh, sure.
And then you also, because there's this little staircase from the stage up to the second floor, and every musician since 1964, when it started with the Doors, and you think about Jim Morrison ran up and down those stairs, you know, a couple of times a month. And then you think about the 1970s with the Eagles and all the bands from the 70s, everybody on Arista Records, Jackson Browne and Linda Ronstadt and Frank Zappa, and even Led Zeppelin and Thin Lizzy and all that stuff. There's my phone ringing again. I got to pause.
Yep.
I got to mute my mic. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. All right. Well, appreciate you joining us. We will also have this recorded so you can see it later, but we're speaking with Dane Zimmerman from Zim's Guitars in Mesa and talking about his original music, also talking about his guitar store and all the things that you can get from him. So we certainly appreciate you joining, and he'll be back in a moment. And we're talking about the Whiskey A Go Go right now. So the Whiskey A Go Go in California, just an iconic place to play. And Dane has been able to play there a couple of times with his original band, Whiskey Dogs. So we'll get into that a little bit, but I do appreciate you joining us. Look for Living in the Limelight podcast on my YouTube channel. Just type in my name, Anton Scholl, or type in LITL or Living in the Limelight, and it should pop up. We have musicians on this show who are also not only musicians, but are fans. There's a lot of fans out there that are not physical musicians, but they love to go and see bands. So those are the people that we'd like to talk to also, because we do want to get their perspective on seeing a band and, you know, what they want from us. What are they expecting from us? So having people on the show who are just fans in general is also great, because we as musicians, we want to know what you're looking for. You know, yes, we play in bars. Yes, we play in the studio. And yes, we do a lot of things for us, but we don't know what you want. And really, as a listener and as a fan, we'd like to hear from you. So anybody who has any insight, you can certainly get on our show. It's Living in the Limelight podcast. And you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, and also Instagram. And from there, just type in my name. Again, it's Anton Scholl, and just go from there, because it's something that we're really interested in doing, getting musicians out there, getting people out there to listen to their original music. You know, if people can just jump on Spotify, I don't think that they realize, you know, all that's free. Jump on Spotify, jump onto your favorite band, local band, you know, all these other famous bands that are out there. I get that, but, you know, throw in an indie band every now and then, throw in a local band every now and then on your playlist. It really helps them out to have monthly listeners and to get put on people's playlists. That's what really gets us where we need to be, getting our music out there and showing it to everybody and kind of passing it along. Same thing, you know, on Facebook. If you can follow on Facebook, follow on TikTok, subscribe on here on YouTube. It's just all about getting our music out to people. So for my music that's out there, I've been in bands over the years. My original band is Anton Scholl and Friends, but you can really take a look on Spotify, again with my name, in YouTube. Check out the videos. But, you know, all the original music out there that is out there is available, and we really need your support and really need your help in getting out there. And it's free. You know, it doesn't cost anything to throw us on your playlist, you know, and we would love to have our music in your ears. And we'd also love to have our music played on broadcasts or wherever you want to use our music on. You know, original music is out there, and the local musicians really work hard to get their music out there. And, you know, all we want is just for someone to follow us, for someone to listen to us, and, you know, like our music, use our music in the backgrounds of your TikTok videos. Those are available. But again, look up your local musician on Spotify or Amazon or whatever is your favorite streaming site, and just give us a follow. It really helps us out. And again, it's free for you, but it really helps us out to get on your playlist. So it looks like Dane is back. You are back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I got some guys coming in the shop, so I'm going to have to cut out.
Okay. Rick, thank you. I do appreciate you.
Whenever you want me back on, just let me know. We'll keep doing it. Whatever you want to do.
I appreciate that. And again, thank you for joining us. Go see Zim's Guitars in Mesa and go talk to Zim. We'll set you up with a great guitar. So appreciate your help, Dane, for all this YouTube stuff you've been helping me with. And that's it. Have a great day and great success to you.
All right, brother.
All right. Thank you.